Cool. No, it's okay.
Action.
Hello, my name is Paul Coulombe, and I'm pleased to be here tonight, this afternoon. I'm going to be offering a Mindfulness for Men course in October and November at the center, and hopefully December. And mindfulness is just a way of being in the present moment, and I think it's something that a lot of men can really benefit from. It's something I practice in my personal life, and it's something I believe in very strongly. It's not just exclusive to men, women obviously for sure, but it's something that I really look forward to bringing to men. And we will just sit in a circle here and do breath work, breathing, a little bit talking about thoughts, feelings, emotions, and how to better interact with them, and yeah, lots of Q&A. I have a little handout here, which I only Xeroxed one, I'm afraid, but I could leave it if you like. And so whoever wants to sign up, I look forward to it very much. Thank you. Okay. I'll leave that.
Pass that around.
Sure, I'll pass that around.
I appreciate that. My name is Lynne MacDonell. I run groups for men who have been abused. Most of them have been sexually abused. I run groups for I run two groups for men who've been sexually abused, some in childhood and some as adults. I have to talk louder? Okay. And I also run groups for men who have developed sexual addiction as a result of being sexually abused. And now I'm starting a new group for men who have been sexually abused and have acted out sexually and abused others. So that just started a couple weeks ago. I've been working with male survivors of sexual abuse for well over 10 years. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can get my number here. The other thing I want you to know that I really believe that men are underserved in this area, that men don't get the attention they need to get. And I truly believe if we can help men heal from abuse, we could really change the world. Thank you.
My name is Robert Samery. I'm here on a couple of bases. The first is as the director of the center, and the second as the vice president of Parental Alienation Awareness Organization. Two separate organizations, and they really don't mesh in organizational outlooks, but there is a commonality. And the commonality rests in societal changes that need to be made. Parental alienation is a family dynamic that occurs often between battling spouses and their children. Their children are used as weapons. There's a saying that we have come to understand all too well, just as Gallaway in a decision a number of years back said that no child is ever born knowing how to hate. They have to be taught. And that's no more true anywhere except no more true other places than in alienation, where a child is taught to disparage and even sometimes hate an otherwise loved parent. A parent can be a father or a mother, and these kinds of circumstances happen to both fathers and mothers. Men are not the sole holders of victimization in this kind of realm, but they are more often not believed. The dynamic occurs so that one spouse tells the children that that parent is no longer to be loved, is not a part of their lives, and in fact ought to be feared because they are dangerous. We as a society look at men as dangerous from the start. It's not hard to have support from the various organizations that support victims to look at men as being perpetrators of violence. And when you look at the police, when you look at the crowns, when you look at the family court system, they're very quick to understand men as being the perpetrators of violence, whether there's a lot of evidence to back that up or not. So from our organizational perspective at the Parental Alienation Awareness Organization, We don't take sides on whether men are perpetrators or men are victims, whether women are perpetrators or women are victims. We look at the effect it has on the children, the real victims of that whole dynamic. CAFE, the Canadian Centre for Men and Families, looks at the male perspective, and we encourage that. We encourage the viewing of men not only as perpetrators, but equally as potential victims of things like parental alienation, of things like domestic violence, parental alienation being a subcategory of domestic violence. So I'm very happy that the center is opening. I'm very happy that there are services being provided to men and to their children in ways that we didn't think men and boys needed those kinds of services or that kind of support. So thank you very much, Justin, for starting this. Thank you very much for keeping it going. You're the head of the organization, not only in name as president, but also in vision. So
Stop. That's enough.
keep it up. Keep it up.
You've spoken longer than your time.
Okay. No, but thank you very much.
Hi everyone. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here. Those of you that don't know me, my name is Paulette MacDonald. I'm a longtime family justice advocate, and I am so proud of Justin and all the work that CAFE has done. This center means more than I can even say. This is something that has been a long time coming, and I think that everyone involved in CAFE needs a big hand because this is awesome. Make sure you grab one of these on your way because this tells you a little bit about the Canadian Centre for Men and Families. And as I was just saying, this is the first of its kind in Toronto. And there's a lot more to be said and a lot more people to come up and say what they need to say. But mostly I just wanted to come up and congratulate everyone that had anything to do with making this a reality. So thank you all for coming today.
So with that, Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Brown. I've been working very much on what I call my Odyssey for Equality, which really focuses on what's happening to our little boys. It's a passion of mine that looking at the effect that we're having on our young men and the long-term effect that's going to have on our whole society, because they're not going to be the only victims. A whole lot of other people are going to be victims as well as these little boys pass through the various stages of their lives. I'm delighted that this center is off the ground. I'm extremely delighted that this is the Center for Men and Families, because it's really critical for not only little boys, it's critical for little girls as well to recognize the value that fathers play in families. We tend to play that down, but this is the personification, this is the bringing to life of that message that we're talking about men and families. So the Odyssey for Equality and CAFE and all these other organizations hopefully are all helping our little boys and consequently our entire society.
And action.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary Farb. I'm what's known as a division coordinator inside an organization called MDI. MDI was formerly known as Men's Division International. It's an organization throughout North America, between 900 and 1,000 men strong. So why I'm here is to tell you briefly a bit about MDI, and I can't think of a better way to explain it to you than through our mission statement. Now, it may sound a bit pretentious, but bear with me. It's to cause greatness in men by mentoring them to live with excellence and as mature, masculine leaders create successful families, careers, and communities. We fill in that niche where men need mentoring, and we don't tell them what to do. We use the collective wisdom of men through a guided inquiry, weekly team meetings, and we have 2 seminal programs. We do them twice a year. It's called Legacy Discovery Experience, in which we take men on a men's weekend of inquiry to look at their internal landscape, who they are as men in relationship to money, to sex, to women, to power, to community, you name it, but it's experiential, and they learn from each other. And at the end of it, there's a transformational process where men come out having no idea that they even have these issues, with an expanded awareness, and either they're committed to growing and developing as men and to being mature masculine leaders, or they're not. If they are, they join our men's teams, and they have ongoing support on a weekly basis for as long as they want to, for life in some cases, right? And there's a number of men here from the organization. So that's, I think, it in a nutshell. 2 minutes. We good?
We are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Spykerman. I am one of the newer members as part of the Canadian Centre for Men and Families and CAFE. Yeah, I'm really thankful to be here, and it's great to see everybody coming out, and I feel privileged to be able to have this opportunity to speak about what I'm doing and what I'm working on. So you all met Robert earlier. One of the major projects that I'm currently working on is to do with men and domestic violence and also access to justice. So if you haven't heard about this already, there are a couple legal aid clinics within the province and even more throughout the country that discriminate against men when it comes to domestic violence. So specifically, we're working on a case that deals with CLASP, which is the Community and Legal Aid Services Program at Osgoode Hall Law School. And at this legal aid clinic, they do not provide legal services to men who have been charged with domestic violence, while they do provide the same services for women who have been charged with the exact same offense. So it's been our initiative to fight this policy and to try and amend it, because we believe that everybody should be given equal access to equality. Everybody should be given free and equal services if they do qualify for it. And yeah, that's basically what we're working on. We're trying to reach out to the community and get as much involvement and help as we can. And we're also trying to find men who might have been affected by domestic violence, whether it's being a victim or actually being charged with domestic violence. We're very interested in meeting these people and seeing how they can help us. So yeah, that's a bit about what I'm doing here. Yeah, thanks again for the opportunity and all the help. I want to thank Robert and Justin especially for all the help and guidance you guys have given me and the great opportunity. So far, the work has been amazing, and I'm really happy to be here, so thank you.
Okay, I'm Vernon Beck from Canada Court Watch. I've been working as a child and family advocate, I guess close to 20 years now. Started out as a mediator, and over the years, basically the work that we do involves bringing around accountability and transparency within the justice system. Now, we're certainly here to welcome this center for opening, and we're going to give our whole support to it. All I can say from the work I've done over the last almost 20 years, I've been engaged from everything from mediation. I'm probably one of the few advocates in the province. I do private interviews with children who are affected by divorce and who have been involved with the Children's Aid Society. And the horror stories that I get from some of these videos are atrocious. And all I can say is that although there are various problems such as men's sexuality, there are abuse and all kinds of other issues, one thing that we see contributing to this is the justice system itself. The justice system in Canada right now is broken. The child welfare system is broken. Not that there are not some good judges and there are good Children's Aid Society workers or social workers, but in general, the system is badly broken right now. And I've seen enough of it in 20 years. I probably have one of the largest libraries of private interviews of people who have been affected. So changes have to come. I believe this organization is going to play a fundamental role in changing the future. So we're here to support you. What we're hoping to do is that I've been giving lectures and workshops for years in regards to how parents can deal with the court system, how they can perform better in the court system, and how to protect themselves from a lot of the child protection workers who are out there, who literally are out there tearing families apart. I deal with this on a regular basis every day. So we're hoping one of our contributions will be maybe to host some workshops in some of these areas that will be beneficial to men and women as well. And we welcome you the best to get the center going, and it looks like you're off to a good start. Thank you.
Those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dan Perrins. I wear a few different hats within the men's human rights advocacy sphere. But I'm not going to get into why I'm going to say quasi-famous. I'm going to get into the reason why I'm here. In November, I believe it was 2012, Warren Farrell gave a speech, or was to give a lecture at University of Toronto. And the individuals who did not want that lecture to go on actually prevented a young man who had lost 2 of his friends to suicide that year. That young man, all he wanted to do was find out why his 2 friends had killed themselves. I found that the response from those who want to stop men from being able to freely discuss the issues that they face, I found that their response was absolutely deplorable. I also found that the response from the police in their inaction to remove those disruptive individuals from the area so that the lecture could continue free and clear was lacking, to say the least. To build upon that, I also know, and I've written about, the fact that the Canadian Mental Health Association knows the fact that in all age groups, men make up 76% of the suicide population. At that college and university level, approximately, I'm going to say from 18 to 25, men make up 80% of the suicide population. Now, the Canadian Mental Health Association knows these facts, and despite knowing these facts, they have 11 papers for women's mental health, which I will not knock, but they have only 1 for men. And I find that is absolutely intolerable and deplorable and disgusting on how our government has chosen to ignore men's issues. And that's why I'm here. And I believe that's why we're all here. And I'm humbled by those who I work with. And thank you very much for coming out.
Enough of that technology. I'm very happy to be here today to support this center and cafe. I think it's important for 2 reasons, because it's going to, in fact, supply services of a social and a legal nature to men and their families. That's number 1. I think the second task is much more daunting, and that is to educate people and the public about men's issues. And as we know, that is a very difficult thing. Now, I want to tell you that I got into this business of men's issues in a rather sideways manner, because I'm a political survivor, all right? And in 1997, I, as a member of Parliament, became the chair of a committee, of a joint committee. I was the House chair of a joint committee of the House of Commons and the Senate, all right? You can't imagine a more dysfunctional group of people, all right? And as the House chair of that committee, we had a year to travel the country and hear from people, generally speaking, men and women, with respect to custody and access. It was a deal that was struck by Ann Coules and Duncan Jessamine, both senators, with Alan Rock. And I want you to remember that name, Alan Rock, so that this issue could be dealt with post child support guidelines. So off we went, and for a year or for many months we traveled. And it became very, very apparent very quickly. First stop was Toronto, huge crowds at the Royal York, 400 people, all kinds of threats being made against members and others in the room. We had to bring in the RCMP to the room. The most contentious hearings probably, and the largest hearings ever by a parliamentary committee. But what became very apparent very quickly was that men were treated unfairly. in the courts, by the justice system, you name it, men were disadvantaged. And what also became apparent was that the public will support people who speak out in support of men. The public understands that there's something fundamentally wrong. They may not know what needs to be changed. They may not know about this law or that law, but they understand that something is fundamentally wrong with the treatment of men and young men by the courts. And so whatever work is done by this center will be, in fact, supported by the public. Oh yes, there are those rabid people out there who want to shout you down. There are those rabid people out there who have other ideas, who don't want to hear yours, but in fact, the public will support you. And every objective, dispassionate poll done in the last 20 years has shown that 90% of Canadians understand something is wrong with this system. I want to just go back 25 years or 26 years because recently we've seen the publication, the reissuance of a book called The Closing of the American Mind. All right, and you can change American to Canadian. And it was a book written by a retiring professor at the University of Chicago by the name of Alan Bloom. And he was sounding the alarm. He was retiring, all right? He was sounding the alarm that, in fact, something was going on in academia that we should be aware of. And that's more than 25 years ago. It was to say that the groups, the identity groups were coming. Those that were based on gender, race, you name it, they were going to be a problem. They were going to be a problem because of what is called in academia relativism, that being, in relativism, that truth is all whatever you say it is, and all truth is political. Remember that, all truth is political. And Alan Bloom said, you want to be careful because these people are not objective. They're not disinterested. There's nothing objective about what they say. It's all, in a sense, made up. But it's, to them, the truth. So, let me just flash forward to today. Today, in recent press stories, we've seen how, in fact, a whole hockey team can be suspended based upon an allegation that was 4 or 5 or 6 months old. And of course, the president of that university, Alan Rock, reappears, and he dispatches to Thunder Bay a private investigator who, we don't know what he concluded, but we know that it confirmed that Alan's suspension of the hockey team was correct. At this point, no, but nobody's been charged, all right? Of course, in the background, or in the foreground, whichever, you have a former governor general, who's the chancellor of that same university, talking about a culture of rape. What a lot of nonsense, all right? We're not a third world country. But she, of course, by royal edict, says that we have a culture of rape, apparently, at the University of Ottawa. What a shameful, shameful thing to say. Now, of course, the whole hockey team has been suspended. Editorial opinion is against it even. The Globe and Mail has come down on the side of being opposed to it. Yet it still persists. It still persists. Because objectivity, disinterest is nowhere to be found at that. Flash forward to just the other day, a football player at McGill has been suspended. His crime is, or was, he and his wife had a little disagreement. She called the cops. She never said that he had touched her. They just had an argument. They had an argument. This is apparently against all ethical university rules. And he's been not only suspended from the football team, but his face has been expunged from the website of that football team. It's this new era of moving on, of let's have a find of guilt, and now at some point in a year or two we'll have a trial. And this is what is happening to men out there. It's not just in the courts, it's now moving into institutions. And it's this collectivization of guilt that we need to be aware of. It's a very, very insidious thing that is happening out there. I want to just stop because I'm not going to speak long, but I want to say that there was a guy, it's not recent, he's a couple of hundred years ago, all right, he said that there's nothing more tyrannical than a bad law. All right, his name was Edmund Burke. He was Irish, he was English, he was a bit of a revolutionary, all right? He said there's nothing more tyrannical than a bad law, and I fear that we're suffering in this country and in this province too under a whole series of bad laws, all right? A series of bad laws. I got up this morning and looked on the website. I'm from Sarnia. I came in from Sarnia today. I looked on the website of the local newspaper, and on that website was a story, and it was about a man who was acquitted. It was like a premonition of coming here today in some way. And he was acquitted on Friday in a court in Sarnia. His charge was sexual assault, all right? Now, the sexual assault was on his wife. She was the one who laid the charges. And the sexual assault occurred when they were married, but the complaint was made when they separated, all right? And he was acquitted. He was acquitted of 4 charges. And Walter Fox was here earlier, and I was talking with him about it. He said, that's old hat, right? We have this old hat that the state now is prosecuting men because the woman is angry. The state is prosecuting men because the woman is trying to get even. And you can't say that out on the street because you're being declared some sort of a misogynist crazy, right? Let me finish by pointing this out to you. As I say, I live in Sarnia. I've always lived there. From time to time, I do work for a college in the community since I'm retired now. And at that college, I've noticed on December the 6th, they have this altar erected in a lobby, and they have speakers, and they have candles, and they have free lunches, and you name it, it occurs all day December the 6th. But what do they have on November the 11th? Well, they have a poppy box at the Tim Hortons kiosk. That's it. That's it, folks. All right? And so I've looked on websites, and I looked at the U of T. What does the U of T have on November the 11th? Well, they actually have a tower at the U of T, a soldier's tower, but they have some sort of a wreath laying. They have the same thing at the University of Ottawa. They have the same thing at the University of Windsor. But on December the 6th, they have all sorts of university-sponsored programs, lunches, testimonials, you name it, it occurs. It tells you something about where we are institutionally in this country in terms of perspective, all right? The perspective is that on December the 6th, there's all kinds of readings, there's all kinds of publications that say women, 50% of what I read last night, 50% of women are assaulted by the time they're 25. What a lot of crap, all right? It says that one in 10 or something, university women will be sexually assaulted. What a lot of nonsense, right? They just make this stuff up, right? And we let them get away with it. So, I'm here today because I think that what is happening here is important. That at some point the truth must escape. And if it escapes from these 4 walls, wonderful. And I'm so pleased that this has come to fruition, and I'm so pleased that you are here today to launch this out there. So thanks for listening.
Do you want to comment briefly on your work on the For the Sake of the Children report?
Well, that's pretty old hat stuff now. Yeah. Well, you know, for those of you, there was a report called For the Sake of the Children. It's old now. It's 15 years or thereabouts. And I'll say a couple of things. It was said that this report was contrived by, influenced by men's group. Well, guess what, folks? The majority of the members of that committee were women. All right. It was said that a certain member, read that, Ann Cools, had been aggressive and assaulted certain women's groups. But this is quite remarkable that a woman could assault women's groups in a room with 400 people in it. And nobody else saw it. It's one of life's optical illusions. But let me just say, the final thing is that report, in my mind, made two important recommendations. It was that shared parenting must happen in this country. And secondly, if you want to allege domestic violence or abuse or whatever we're going to call it, you better be prepared to prove something. You've got to be able to show it, all right? You just can't say it. You must be able to put it into evidence in court that this, in fact, happened. And, of course, 15 years later, it's still languishing out there. In fact, Peter MacKay said, no, it's not going to happen. So I believe it will come. I just hope I'm alive when it does. But I believe that at some point, the public will have had enough, and particularly men. So it was that whole year was it was an act of insanity. It was crazy. It was awful. Anyways, but I survived, and that's the important thing. So,
Thanks for doing it.
yeah.
Conversation and food, please.
Yeah, hello, and it's very good to be here, and I'm glad that this organization is really going. I'm a male survivor of domestic violence, and Earl Silverman was also survivor of domestic violence, and for 20 years, he tried very hard to get a shelter going for male survivors of domestic violence in Alberta. He did not succeed, and unfortunately, he committed suicide. I think it's very appropriate for us to remember Earl Silverman.
That I'm a senior citizen. I've been a senior citizen for a lot of years. I've worked in psychiatry in the women's clinic at the Toronto General Hospital, Toronto Western, and I feel really privileged and honored to be a part of this group, because if I had to state in life one thing that makes me crazy, it's injustice. And I feel if there's one group that, I mean, there are many groups, but in North America, I think injustice is happening with men, and I really want, and I'm not a misogynist. I like women, I like men, but I would really like to help. There's so many good men's causes, and this is really a wonderful network, and I'm here to work, and I'm glad that all of you are here too.